to the Steroids Podcast with your host, Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. Boom! Boom! Let's get started here. The Steroids Podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Guide to Roids, 109-page ebook by Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. Now, for the first time in bodybuilding history, you have someone with no corporate interests and no obligation to please anyone, not walking on eggshells to not offend. Ultimate Guide to Roids gives you the information, the whole truth, not a full truth and a half truth, full truth. Ultimate Guide to Roids gives you the keys to the Lamborghini, gives you the information, and lets you decide what to do with it. It's a crime this information has been suppressed this long. Now let's get on with the podcast.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Steroids Podcast. So, be on the lookout for my next book, Ultimate Guide to Roids 2, Don't Keel Over Dead. Ultimate Guide to Roids, my book that so many thousands of you have bought, is about how to do bodybuilding and what it takes to actually do bodybuilding. It absolutely contains health information, but the focus of that book is on, exactly what it takes, what you need to do in order to go from nothing to going to, if you want to, all the way to an open heavyweight pro bodybuilder. It gives that information, what is necessary, what the secrets are about what bodybuilders do to get there. Anywhere in between, having no idea about PEDs, all the way up to becoming a pro bodybuilder, or, anywhere in between. So it tells those, and it definitely tells a lot of information on other stuff too, bro science, which bro science is good, which bro science doesn't work, dieting techniques and tricks, drugs to help with that, etc. But the Ultimate Guide to Roids 2, Don't Keel Over Dead, is about maintaining your health and what you can do to mitigate risk factors when you are doing what it is necessary to do bodybuilding. Because we all know that abusing steroids, which is necessary in order to do bodybuilding, that's part of bodybuilding, abusing anabolic steroids. It's not healthy to do that. No shit. That's not a secret. It may be something that we keep out of our heads, and also steroid abuse is also another term that we try to keep out of our heads. It's not a flattering term, but the reality is the fact that, that's what's required to do bodybuilding. So the book is, if we're going to talk about, what is really necessary to do bodybuilding, in order to do bodybuilding, you have to do things that are not healthy. And the book is going to show you how to mitigate those damages, and what kind of dosages you can take, like as far as TRT, etc. Things that you can do to even not hurt your health. But yes, as far as taking it to the extreme, really doing bodybuilding, yes, of course we know steroids hurt your health, using them in that way. And the book is really going to be focusing on, how to mitigate those risk factors and how long you can do things. So be looking forward to Ultimate Guide to Roids 2, Don't Keel Over Dead, coming soon. So let's get on to a question, okay? The first question is from Aaron. He asks, what effect do stimulants, e.g. caffeine DMMA, so the ingredient in jacked 3D dimethylamine, ephedrine, etc., have on the body, and how bad for you is taking a before every workout on roids? Okay, well, I just want to tell you guys that, being on steroids, adding stimulants to that is really a pretty powerful risk factor you're stacking to anabolic steroids. So your heart's under strain on steroids because of multiple factors. So one of them is just that you're big. Your heart was not made to accommodate a body your size. Like, for example, when I've been at my biggest, I'm about 250, 255, 245 pounds. And when I was a natural, I was 145, 150, 155 pounds. I made it up heavier as a natural before I started juicing, but that's not my natural weight. So since starting training in bodybuilding, I've gained 100 pounds, and my heart, that's almost double my body weight. It's an increase of like 40%. Of course, my heart was not born to be able to do that. So just the fact that I'm big is a serious strain on my heart, okay? And then, not to mention the fact that, taking steroids has a plethora of cardiovascular effects, one being that they increase plaque deposition in your heart and arteries. And a lot of, for most everyone, steroids also increase blood pressure. There are some outliers out there where, they do not have blood pressure problems on steroids. And then another one is that, steroids also increase hematocrit levels. So they increase the thickness of your blood. So then, thicker liquid has to be pushed harder than thinner liquid to get through. A lot of people don't keep their hematocrit in range when they're using steroids. They've got very high hematocrit. So they've got, considerably thicker blood than normal. So they're really stacking risk factors on their cardiovascular system. And then, you take stimulants, caffeine, DMAA, ephedrine, etc., whatever stimulants people are taking when they work out to, go insane or whatever. So you don't need that, by the way. You don't need that. You will be able to do bodybuilding fine. You will be able to do powerlifting fine without taking that stuff, okay? So that's an extra. That you're just doing that because you like it. You like the way it feels. And with all this stuff too, like don't get me wrong. I'm not some kind of saint, as you guys know. I've definitely, abused the shit out of anabolic steroids and my body, so, I'm not a saint here. I'm just telling you like it is. Okay. And I have made the decision, not to continue stimulant use, like I have, previously at times. For me, my preference as far as stimulants and working out was the combination of ephedrine and caffeine. So about 25 milligrams of ephedrine and 200 milligrams of caffeine. When I've used stimulants as a pre-workout to make me have, more training insane, something like that. That was my method of choice. I've used other things too. Jacked 3D, the original one, is actually very, very powerful. I've used that too. The thing is that these things, they're dangerous for one thing. They're just dangerous, these supplements. But they're more dangerous for the steroid users. So you are really stacking risk factors as a steroid user when you put these together. So the main thing is that people get heart palpitations, okay, when they're taking these stimulants. When you are exercising, you are redlining your body, okay? You have a car, you have an engine, that's you. You've hot rodded it, okay? You've hot rodded the engine, and by putting anabolic steroids in your body, okay? So now you have a hot rodded car, and you're really pushing that engine. You are really that engine was not meant for this much power, but you've hot rodded it, you've supercharged it, and so you're putting a lot of wear and tear on that thing, on that motherfucker, on that shit, and because of that, well, that's a risk factor for you, bro. And now you go and you add nitrous oxide, which is the stimulants, okay? You add NOS to that supercharged engine, and you go to the gym and put it under maximum strain, which is putting it on the racetrack at full blast, and that thing can blow up, and it does sometimes. Sometimes it blows up for people, okay? So to give you an example of what happens when you're working out, okay? If you start working out and you are at something like 120 over 80 blood pressure, or 120 over 70 blood pressure, okay? And that's your resting blood pressure, and you start working out, okay? Once you are in the middle of a heavy set, or if you're doing cardio activity, for example, once you've got your heart rate up to about 160, 170, your blood pressure has now gone, the systolic number has now gone above 200, okay? So this is normal. This is normal. This is how it goes when you exercise. Your blood pressure in the middle of exercising raises astronomically, okay? So now just know that, if you had good blood pressure to begin with on steroids, okay? You had the correct blood pressure. Now you add the workout, and in the middle of that set of squats, your blood pressure's somewhere between like 200 to 240 over somewhere between like 60 to 80 probably. If you started out with a blood pressure of about 120 over 70 to 80, then that's where it's going during that set. Same thing if you take your heart rate with doing cardio and you're really pushing it, and you take your heart rate up to like 165, 170, 175, 180 heart rate, same thing's happening, okay? So that's with perfect blood pressure. So we know, though, that most steroid users don't have perfect blood pressure. And that's one of the main things that you can do, taking care of that as a steroid user to protect yourself, because as we know, most bodybuilders and powerlifters die in their 50s and 60s from heart attacks and strokes because of cardiovascular damage. That's one thing that blood work doesn't show you. I know a lot of you guys don't get blood work, but I know a lot of you guys don't look at cardiovascular damage that you're getting either. And that comes from different analysis in order to find out, whether or not that's happening. So anyways, it's not a mystery. You look at when do the bodybuilders die? They die in their 50s and 60s. If they make it to their 70s, damn, that dude is old for a bodybuilder. Okay? So you don't want that, dude. You don't want that. So you need to do like everything in your power to make that not happen, because I mean, that's just so shitty. Okay. So that's why I'm like kind of giving this a real in-depth look right now. Cause, that's a real thing that you're looking at. And if you don't take mitigating factors, it's likely what's going to happen to you. So you need to really be paying attention right now. So anyways, you start exercising, with the perfect blood pressure, and it's going up to astronomical levels during your workout, okay? So now you add steroids, and, if you're not on blood pressure medication while you're on steroids in order to get it right, and there's nothing to be ashamed about taking blood pressure medication. I take it. Anyways, so a lot of you guys have high blood pressure on steroids, okay? Now, you add in your stimulants, okay? You add in your DMMA, your ephedrine, your caffeine, your Adderall, whatever the fuck you take, okay? Your blood pressure just jumped up like another 20 points. So let's say, for example, you're a steroid user, and I'm going to go on the low side for a lot of guys. For guys who are big and they're serious, they're definitely like a serious bodybuilder. Like a 140 over like 80 or 85 blood pressure, that's pretty good for him. If he's not taking medication to lower his blood pressure, that would be considered like, oh, for a big bodybuilder, that's pretty good blood pressure. Definitely not for a normal person, it's not. But anyways, like a lot of bodybuilders, though, just to let you guys know, a lot of bodybuilders have blood pressure more around between like 150 to 160 over somewhere between 80 and 100, okay? That would be like something that you would see a lot for guys who they take a lot of roids, and they're really big dudes, and you're looking at their blood pressure and you're thinking, what is his blood pressure? It's mostly within that range. Okay, and so now you add stimulants to that, dude. So you just increased it. You definitely increased it like at least 20 points. If you took a strong pre-workout, like 300 to 500 milligrams of caffeine, or you took like 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine, with plus DMAA or plus ephedrine or something like that, you're increasing like the top number, something like 20 points, something like that. And then, the bottom number comes up to something like probably 5 to 10 points from that. And so now, so let's say you started at, 140, now you're up to 160. So maybe you started at 140 over 80, 85. Now you're up to like 160 over 85 to 90 in the middle of your workout. and now you take what happens during exercise where the blood pressure shoots up like another 80 to 100 points during the exercise, and you're talking like your blood pressure, man, it's like insane. It like during your sets, during your workouts, you're getting blood pressure somewhere in like 250, 240 to 300 over over 80 to 90 or something like that during your sets. And dude, that's fucking dangerous, dude. You are like taking your cardiovascular system to the absolute limit. And people have problems. They don't really talk about this, but people have problems. Like they have to go to the hospital and shit from using pre-workouts. And so that's like naturals, you combine this with being a steroid user, using Clen with it and stuff too, using all this shit, dude. Being like, other stuff increases like your heart rate and stuff too. Taking a lot of steroids increases your heart rate. Taking Trenbolone increases your heart rate. Dude, when you stack this stuff and you're taking heavy stimulants too, oh my God, dude. Oh my God, the risk you're putting yourself under. You may think it's normal because you see everyone else doing it, or you've been doing it for a long time and you haven't had any problems. But dude, it's not worth it what you're doing. Like, stick with your steroids, man. Because your steroids are definitely enough. Like, you are enhanced and you can do bodybuilding with those steroids. You do not need those stimulants. But those stimulants are exposing you to an enormous amount of risk, okay? Enormous risk. So that's my thoughts, is you shouldn't have any stimulants before you work out. If you must have like a small black coffee or something, or coffee with milk or something, like, okay, whatever. But I'm not doing that. Dude. Blood pressure is serious shit, okay? And so, like, that's just not something to mess around with for a bodybuilder. Is not something to mess around with. And then the fact that, like, you have a stress on your heart doing bodybuilding, and then you're doing all this other shit, too, to just jack it through the roof. Then you're making your adrenaline go nuts with, like, hardcore music, too, which that also increases your blood pressure, shooting more adrenaline. It's like you are redlining your engine so hard, and there's only so long you can redline the engine when it's supercharged and you're opening it up full force on the racetrack, okay? There's only so long you can do that before it blows up. It will blow up. You're burning the candle. So that's what I think about it. And people were asking me, saying like, okay, does that mean I can never have another cup of coffee again? No, it doesn't mean that. And another thing that people were talking about is marijuana, because smoking marijuana, it increases your heart rate. If you take your heart rate before, like right before you smoke marijuana, and then smoke marijuana, and then take it again right after you smoke marijuana, the heart rate's faster. Okay, so it increases heart rate. So people were asking about that too. I don't think that you should take anything, before your workout that is stressing, no chemicals that are stressing your cardiovascular system, okay? You don't need that, by the way, either. You're on steroids. But that's my opinion, is that you should not be trying to boost or press or ignite the cardiovascular system during your workout. That is no good for a steroid user. For a natural, I think they can get away with it. For a steroid user, dangerous, man, dangerous. All right, next question. This is a story from Steven, okay? He sent this into me, and it has to do with the last thing we were talking about. So, just to give you an example, okay? So Steven has a story to tell. This honestly just happened to me a little over a year ago. Same thing, but I was taking clenbuterol and Yohimbine in the mornings and a pre-workout in the afternoon. It started in the gym mid-workout. All of a sudden, I got extremely exhausted and started breathing hella heavy and had to sit just to catch my breath. I almost passed out and ended up just going home after trying to relax. But just laying down, it was getting worse. I couldn't feel my heart. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Then like 3 to 4 rapid beats. Then back to pounding in my chest. Felt like I was being punched in my heart. I ended up going to the emergency room later that night. There were about 4 to 5 nurses in the room with me, and all of them said they've never seen anyone with heart palpitations like that. I ended up getting several IVs, and when the main doctor came into the room, he said if I didn't show up, I most likely wouldn't have survived the night. They had to pump a sedative into me, and 3 other drugs, including fentanyl. And they had to shock my heart with electricity to reset it. They gave me a ton of sedatives through the IV, and they still didn't work. I stood awake through the whole thing. They also said I was the first person to not be affected by what they were putting in the IV. I was on testosterone and trenbolone and anthate, as well as the clenbuterol and Yohimbine. And before they released me, they were telling each other how crazy it was that none of those drugs were working on me, and I was able to walk out of there like nothing happened to me. All right, man. His story is not uncommon. So what I'm saying is that, you know, don't think that they're like an outlier or they're unlucky or stuff like that. It's the same thing with like my leg too. You know, like how I got a massive infection in my leg and it turned necrotic. And so then the tissue inside my leg died. Like, I'm not the only person that's happened to, okay? So when you hear these things happen, like shitty things happening with bodybuilders or powerlifters, and you go like, oh, they were unlucky. They're an outlier. That's not something that normally happens. That's not actually correct. I got news for you. That's not actually correct. These things are pretty common. If you do bodybuilding long enough, you get fucked up. That's it. If you do bodybuilding long enough, you get fucked up. You have to, dude, it's serious business. Like, you got to be like fucking militant. When you're talking bodybuilding, and as far as you want to be healthy or something like that, and be a bodybuilder, then you have to be militant about what you're doing. And you have to make sacrifices. You cannot act like a normal person and expect to be healthy acting like a normal person. So, like, it's pick your poison, and you picked your poison, okay? You picked steroids, and obviously steroid abuse is not healthy. And so if you start adding other poisons, like the other poisons that the normal people are eating, so shit like a lot of junk food, unhealthy food, okay? Recreational drugs, stimulants, a lot of alcohol, you're going to fuck yourself up. Whereas other people will be able to recover from that, or they will be able to like have it and like affect their health, but like, you know, not too badly. Smoking would be another one. Smoking, in addition to those other things that I said. Like, if you're on steroids though, oh my God, it's so much worse for you. It's so much worse for you than it is for them. Okay? So like that's another thing is, you know, steroid users are so prideful and have so much ego, you know, and it's like, oh, I'm healthier than everyone else. I'm on steroids, but I'm healthier than them. You know, like I exercise or something. Yeah. Okay. You know what? If you're doing this other shit, you're doing these other habits like they're doing, you are so much less healthy than them. You are so much less healthy than them. It's totally out of touch with reality. All right, next question. Nat asks, supposed to be on 500 milligrams Sustanon at the moment and wasn't really feeling that much different. Am I fucking natty? Then this guy sent me his blood work, okay? Nat did. The testosterone on the test was 538 nanograms per deciliter, and he had normal luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating LH and FSH levels. So anyways, his gear's bunk. It's vegetable oil that he's injecting himself with. So that's how you know, really, you know, whether or not your testosterone's real is you check out the nanograms per deciliter total testosterone on your blood test. So if you're taking 500 milligrams, it should definitely be above 3,000 nanograms per deciliter, okay? That's about what it can go up somewhere between like 3,000 nanograms to 5,500 nanograms would be normal, anywhere in there, because people metabolize it at different rates and get different blood levels from the same milligrams injected. Be somewhere around there. But then the other thing is that, you know, if somebody still has high LH and FSH, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, that means that their testicles aren't shut down, okay? Their testicles are still pumping out fully. So if they have zero, which one shot of trenbolone or one shot of Deca makes those go to zero, or if they have it very, very low, you know, below the normal range or near zero, then that means that they're on legitimate steroids because their natural system, their testicles, are shut down, okay? So now you guys know. You know, some people get afraid. Actually, they'll send me messages like, "Oh my God, here's my blood work, my LH on cycle, my LH and my FSH is low," and I'm kind of laughing because I'm like, Yeah, like, that's exactly what steroids do. Steroids make your LH and FSH go down. That's your natural system going off. And I don't mean that I'm laughing at them. I'm not laughing at them. There's definitely no such thing as a stupid question with me at all. And also there's no such thing as judgment with me. So, like when you guys, because a lot of you guys call me on the phone, you do the phone call consultation with me 1 hour. You talk to me about what you're doing, or how to correct, your health issues, or planning your cycles. And you don't have to, do not feel awkward because I've talked badly about something in the podcast, or I've said, something, I don't think you should use Trenbolone. If I've said something like that, or like, I'm not into Tren anymore, or something like that, or like stimulants are bad, or like you shouldn't smoke. Don't be shy to me when you're on the phone and think that I am going to judge you, or like I give a fuck, like you're going to do what you're going to do, and I'm just here to help you, okay? So like I'm definitely not here to be like, oh, you bastard, you've got to do things my way. Whatever you're doing to yourself, just tell me your risk factors, and I'm going to help you to be in the best position possible, with the risk factors that you want to put yourself through, okay? Like for real. This is not about me and making your use be my way of use. It's about you learning, and then us making a comprehensive plan for you how to protect you the best. Okay? So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because a lot of guys who have called me have been a little bit shy, and it's taken a little bit of time for them to open up sometimes and tell me exactly what they're doing. But I want you guys to know that it's not like that. Tell me exactly what you're doing, and I'm not going to think any less of you. And it's it's the same thing with the doctor. Like when you go to the doctor, do you like to go to the doctor that gets sidetracked when you're trying to tell him shit? You're trying to tell him your problems or what's wrong with you or whatever, or discuss something with him, and he gets sidetracked and he's like, no, you just need to get off the fucking testosterone. You just need to get off the steroids. Do you like that when he treats you like that? No, I don't like that either. Okay? I want him to be like trying to reduce my harm, or like, trying to help me reduce the harm, okay? So that's the same way that I act when I'm with you guys. Yeah, you're going to do what you're going to do, and I'm here to help you do it in the least harmful way possible, okay? Reduce the harm reduction. All right, next question. Dalton asks, how much cardio do you recommend? Does it differ for a bulk versus a cut? Also say how much caffeine is too much. I tend to keep my daily intake around 200 to 300 milligrams. I also take a lot of other supplements for heart and liver health. I just got finished my second blast and got my blood work done before I hopped off, and liver enzymes and cholesterol were very high, as well as a few indicators pointing to inflammation of my heart. My blood pressure is on the high side of the normal range, averaging about 140/80. All right, let's talk about this. So he's in a pretty normal situation here for a steroid user. That might not sound very pretty. But how much cardio do I recommend? 60 minutes per day. It doesn't have to be in the gym, but just 60 minutes a day of cardiovascular activity. Some of it can be in the gym. Some of it can be walking around outside, whatever. Somewhere between like 110 to 140 beats per minute heart rate, and maintaining that for 60 minutes per day. You should be doing that, man. Especially if you like to exercise a lot, especially if you're a steroid user and you want to be, taking good care of your health. You've got a responsibility to do that. It's like brushing your teeth. Okay. It's like brushing your teeth. If you're a steroid user, you have to do stuff that is uncomfortable, in order to mitigate your risks. You can't just be like a normal person and be healthy. You got to do a bunch of above and beyond shit if you want to be healthy. All right. And, so, he asks how much caffeine is too much. He tends to keep his daily intake around 200 to 300. This is what I have to say. With any kind of drugs, that are like recreational drugs, which, caffeine is a recreational drug. People use it to feel good. The magic goes away when you use it every day, okay? It's the same thing with smoking a J. If you smoke a J every day, it's a different experience than if you smoke a J once a week, or if you smoke a J once every 2 weeks, or once a month, okay? where those factors are like, it's like, damn, you just went to another universe, for example. As far as doing that every day, you don't really get that effect anymore. So, there's quite a bit of the magic of using drugs, using recreational substances, goes away if you use them every day. So that's my recommendation on caffeine, is not to use it every day. It really, is powerful in low doses even, something, if you have no tolerance, something like 80 milligrams, like a small Red Bull or something like that. Damn, that shit pumps you up. Okay. So I don't think you need to use it every day. If you're going to use it every day and you're a bodybuilder, I wouldn't use over 200 milligrams per day. As far like the more you use and the more you go, the more you stress your adrenal system, the more tired you are, and the more a slave to the caffeine you become. Okay. The more a slave to that drug. Okay. You don't want to be like that, man. You don't want to be like that. You're going to have very high, very good energy without caffeine if you will just get rid of the tolerance, if you'll just get rid of the addiction, okay? And then if you need little bits of caffeine every once in a while, you can take 200 milligrams or something and be healthy, but don't be, do not be, taking all these recreational drugs consistently and thinking that you're not hurting yourself. We talked about already why, stimulants are bad, especially for a bodybuilder, okay? They're not that bad for a normal person, but for a bodybuilder, they're fucking you up, okay? They're fucking up your heart and arteries. So another ththing is that he said he had some markers from his blood work, showing inflammation in his heart. Well, that was probably C-reactive protein, so he's probably using underground lab gear with synthetic oils, which is irritating his veins, causing that inflammation. So the synthetic oils, stuff like ethyl oleate, causes that. Using natural oils, cottonseed oil, grapeseed oil, etc. Those kinds of oils, taking gear that has that, usually doesn't cause those inflammation markers to rise. Turmeric is a good anti-inflammation supplement you can take. Make sure it has standardized curcuminoids above 90%. And then, he said his liver enzymes were up and his cholesterol was high as well. Of course, if you take, one thing is that, the liver enzymes can go up just from working out. You're making a lot of waste, and then the cholesterol, if you're taking anything other than like testosterone and growth hormone, pretty much your cholesterol goes weird. Okay. Especially like if you're taking any kind of DHT derivatives, Winstrol, Anavar, Masteron, Primobolan, stuff like this, that really messes up your cholesterol levels bad. So, cholesterol, if it's off, especially if LDL cholesterol, bad cholesterol is high, that's the main one you need to worry about. If it's really high and it's like that for the majority of your life, then yeah, you're building up cholesterol in your arteries, and it will cause plaque in your arteries and cause you major problems down the road. If you're, maintaining that for most of your life for years, that's what happens. So I mean, he's got to make some choices. All right. The next question is from Anonymous. Hey, Dan, question for the podcast. I've been on and off natural lifting for about 10 years and thinking about starting a cycle. I want to do testosterone enanthate or cypionate and Equipoise with a little Anavar sprinkled in for my first cycle. Any advice on dosing, injection frequency, or even substituting compounds like Winstrol instead of Anavar? Love the podcast. Keep up the great work. Yeah, I think you picked some good ones for your first cycle. Doing testosterone or like testosterone and Anavar, or testosterone and Equipoise. Usually, like 2 things would be what I'd, if it was me, I would do for my first cycle. Something like 500 test, 500 Equipoise, or something like 250 to 500 test with 50 milligrams of Anavar per day, or instead of that, maybe 25 milligrams Anavar, 30 milligrams Winstrol combo, something like that. That's what I would do if I was going back and doing my first cycle again, because it's easy to control and it's easy to know, where different effects are coming from. You asked, dosing and injection frequency. for testosterone and enanthate, cypionate. It's the same for enanthate and cypionate. If you take it once a week, it's sufficient, but the last like 2 days, it's going down, like the blood levels, because those shots peak in 24 hours and they maintain elevation for about like 3 to 5 days. They maintain a pretty stable high level, and then they kind of start dropping off after that. So if you do it twice per week, though, enanthate or cypionate, then that totally solves that. And, so you don't need to, if you take more shots of those than twice per week, you're not really going to get more stable blood levels. That's all you need to do twice a week in order to get stable blood levels with either of those esters. And then with Equipoise, it's pretty much the same, but Equipoise is longer. It is a longer ester. And you can do like once per week with that and not have a problem, not really have a drop off with that. So Equipoise is a little longer, yeah, but twice per week, yeah, absolutely. And you can mix testosterone and Equipoise in the same syringe, so you don't have to take multiple shots because you're taking multiple compounds. You can just draw testosterone, draw Equipoise, and then they're in the same syringe, and it's just one injection. That would be standard use with doing that. One thing though is that using the same needle for drawing and then using that same needle for doing the injection, performing the injection, that hurts like a bitch, because the tip of that little needle, it gets dulled when it goes through the rubber stopper in the top of the vial, and then once it's dull, if that like goes through your skin, it hurts like hell. So, using one needle to go through the rubber stopper and draw the steroids into the vial, and then using a different needle, changing the needle on the syringe, and using a fresh one to perform the injection that, has never touched anything. First thing it ever touches is your skin. Okay, Power asks, hey, Dan, I have a question about Winstrol and its bad rap. I tried it and all my joint pain went away, so I don't get why people claim the opposite. Is it dangerous for strength athletes in any way, shape, or form? Maybe it makes you so strong so quickly you can hurt yourself from exerting too much force. Yeah, Winstrol increases strength really good. So I'm actually the same as Power. I get zero joint pain. He said his joint pain went away when he started taking Winstrol, and he felt amazing and had great strength. I would be more on the side with him, actually. So Winstrol actually increases, one thing that's funny is Winstrol increases collagen synthesis, or, like tendon growth, ligament growth, more than almost any other steroid known. So, but, the hypothesis is that the tendons that are built, the addition to the tendon on Winstrol is not as high quality as like testosterone grown tendon. Okay, so that's why people say that Winstrol could cause injuries with the tendons, or tearing a tendon or something. And also, Winstrol's diuretic, and so it takes fluid out of the joints, it takes fluid out of the tendons. That's another thing that it does. So some people do get joint pain from Winstrol, and it seems to be an inflammation reaction to the Winstrol, because it's very genetic, is what I've noticed, because I've talked to a huge sample size of people, and people calling me and talking to them about their experiences too, and it seems to be about 50-50. 50% of the people have zero joint pain on Winstrol, and the other 50% are having some kind of genetic response to it, where their genetics are sensitive to some kind of inflammatory action, or some kind of dehydrating to a more severe level action of Winstrol inside their joints, and so it gives them that pain. I would really, is it dangerous for strength athletes? No, it's not. If you are one of the people that do not respond in a negative way to it, I would do my heaviest lifting, and I know many strength athletes who would do their heaviest lifting on Winstrol, absolutely. But then there are other guys who say, that would tear my body apart for sure, and I don't not trust those guys. I believe that they're saying what is real for them, and from what I've seen, the genetic response is split straight down the middle, 50-50. So that's the way it is with Winstrol. You got to try it and see, if it has a joint problem for you or if it doesn't. But it definitely is not a steroid that causes joint problems for everyone like is claimed on the internet. That is bullshit and is not true, okay? So about half of people do not have any joint pain whatsoever from taking Winstrol. Next question. Aaron asks, yep, I hope I don't have a serious consequence from taking hormones. I try to mitigate it, but like right now, I've been dealing with triple-digit liver enzymes. So the liver enzymes are supposed to be like below about like 40 AST, ALT. And so he's saying that triple-digit, so he's talking like over 100 or over 150 each, And he says, I don't even drink or take orals. Been worried about it. I've been taking a ton of N-acetylcysteine, which is a very effective supplement for reducing liver enzymes, and it still won't come down. Every blood test I get, it keeps getting higher. Hope I didn't cause liver problems for myself. I'm just on test in nandrolone. You wouldn't think it caused any issues. All right, so, if you take a blood test within 24 hours of a workout, you just created a bunch of waste products and lactic acid and shit, and your liver has to neutralize that. So that's going to cause you to have higher liver enzymes if you've worked out. So if you want to get like the most accurate test on your liver, the first thing you should do is wait 24 hours after a workout to give the blood for the test. And then the next thing, you're taking N-acetylcysteine, which reloads the liver with its antitoxin L-glutathione, which is good. So you're doing that already. But actually, all steroids are processed by the liver. It doesn't matter whether it's an oral or not. Orals are definitely more toxic, and they contain a certain chemical. Part of the chemical is a certain specifically toxic thing called a 17-alpha alkylation that causes toxicity to the liver. But all steroids are processed in the liver, and also, the alcohol that is in the steroids, the benzyl alcohol, etc., is also processed in the liver. So if you're taking huge amounts of steroids, you're taking, very large amounts of injectables, that alone can elevate your liver enzymes, okay? So that can, just from having a lot of steroids in your body, putting a lot of benzyl alcohol in your body, okay? You don't have to only be taking orals in order to, have liver stress from taking steroids. And then in addition to that, trenbolone also causes liver stress. I see almost everyone that I see's blood work who is using trenbolone has some elevated liver enzyme levels. It's a quality of trenbolone. Okay. And be very careful and remember that I said almost everyone, not everyone. Okay. There's outliers to every single one of these side effects from steroids. Not one side effect from steroids is 100% in every person throughout the board, okay? So it's very individual. And, whether or not you experience side effects and how many you experience is a major component in how far and how successful you can be in bodybuilding and how long you can do it. Okay, so here's another one, is that this guy's big. I know who this is, and he's big and he's strong, and when you have so much muscle mass that is way beyond what your little liver that you were born with, of course, your liver was not built to be processing 100 pounds of extra muscle mass as waste, okay? That's a lot of waste. So if you have really high muscle mass, that alone will cause liver stress. And so in this situation, the only thing, if he's having an acute problem like this, where it's going up every single test, it's already really high, he's already taking stuff, no orals, no alcohol, and he's even taking, a supplement that is an effective liver supplement for, taking stress off the liver, and he's still having problems. Well, the only options really that he's left with is decreasing frequency, decreasing volume, and that means, how often he's going to the gym, or how much work he's doing at the gym in order to create less waste products from those huge muscles. Or the other one is to lose size, is to come down in size, because he's gone past, what his liver is okay with doing. If you're having problems like that and your liver enzymes are continually going up, you're already in the triple digits, you got to think about something like that. or you need to get your liver imaged with ultrasound, set up an abdominal ultrasound to check out your liver and see if there's problems going on there, because you don't want to move, having some light liver stress can be transient, but you don't want to move into something where you're having chronic liver problems with the steroids. So you got to do something about that. Do not leave it. Okay, next question. Kevin asks, I got a question for the pod. Could you get into hair loss? I got Finasteride prescribed by my doctor. I'm taking 1.25 milligrams each day. How does Finasteride affect how the gear works? What dosage and compounds are best to avoid hair loss while using Finasteride? Love the information you're putting out and recommend everybody to buy your book, Ultimate Guide to Roids. Best regards, Kev. Yeah, okay. So Finasteride, the way it works is it's a 5-alpha reductase enzyme inhibitor, okay? So it works similar to exemestane with estrogen and the aromatase enzyme. Exemestane seeks out the aromatase enzyme, the enzyme in your body that transforms testosterone into estrogen, and it neutralizes it, destroys it. And then your body has to regenerate more aromatase enzyme before estrogen can be produced. So Finasteride does the same thing with the 5-alpha reductase enzyme. And the 5-alpha reductase enzyme is responsible for converting testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, which is the dihydrotestosterone is the hormone that is potent in sex-responsive tissues. So it's what makes you be able to get an erection. It's what makes your brain have masculine thinking, masculinized brain. It's what makes your body hair grow. It's what causes hair loss. It's what gives acne, increased sweating, etc. Okay, that's dihydrotestosterone. So when you inhibit the 5-alpha reductase enzyme with Finasteride, then that decreases the amount of DHT, dihydrotestosterone, that is produced when you're using testosterone. However, this will have no effect on other steroids if you're using them that are like stuff that like DHT derivatives, for example, okay? Because, if the steroid does not have the innate ability to interact with the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, or it's already, in a state that it's already dihydrotestosterone, well then, reducing the 5-alpha reductase enzyme will have no effect on it. So, for example, DHT-based steroids, Primobolan, Anavar, Winstrol, Mastron, okay? These are DHT steroids. They're already DHT. They come from DHT. So there's nothing for the 5-alpha reductase enzyme to do with them. So when they go in your body, you could have a shitload of 5-alpha reductase enzyme and it would make no difference. And those steroids will go right to your hair loss receptors and, cause problems there. And the Finasteride has no ability to affect them since 5-alpha reductase cannot interact with those steroids. So, Trenbolone is another one. 5-alpha reductase has no impact on Trenbolone. So, as far as, what is your Finasteride affecting? Well, it's affecting hair loss caused by testosterone. But is it affecting hair loss caused by your other gear? No. So one thing you can do is you should try an androgen receptor blocker shampoo. So stuff like minoxidil that gets in your hair, in your scalp, topically gets in there, can block the androgen receptor. Then you're going to have more of you're at least going to have some hope of doing something in your head, in your hair follicles, blocking the steroids there. When these other steroids, Anadrol, Primobolan, Masteron, Proviron, Winstrol, etc., that you have hair loss problems with, using a shampoo, androgen receptor blocker shampoo, something like minoxidil is going to be actually have an effect, whereas Finasteride will have no effect with that type of gear. All right, next question from Matthew. Podcast question. On 400 milligrams test per week, just started Metformin 5 days ago. I take 1,000 milligrams with morning meal and 1,000 milligrams with an evening meal. Since starting, I've been looking extremely bloated and maybe even a little softer watery in the midsection despite no diet changes. This bloat's not normal for me. Does this bloat go away? It's discouraging to keep using Metformin with the belly bloat. Also using 50 to 70 micrograms T3 per day. Is there any correlation between these two medicines you take at different times? Okay. So the first 10 to 14 days that you go on metformin, you're going to have major gastrointestinal upset, okay? And this is because the gut flora, the bacteria in your gut is changing because of the metformin. And this is not very comfortable, okay? And it makes it so that you can't absorb your food. And so the food creates a ton of gas, and it goes through you unabsorbed, and you lose a lot of body fat because even though you're eating, you're absorbing like no calories from it. So you lose a ton of body fat, and you know what you're experiencing right now is totally normal the first 10 to 14 days on metformin, and then after that you normalize, the bloating and the gas goes away, and then you have metformin continues to reduce the fat absorption from your meals by 30%, increase the insulin sensitivity in the muscle tissue but not the fat, and it really acts like a filter, for when you cheat, to block fat acquisition when you're cheating. That's probably, metformin used without growth hormone. At the same time, it acting as like a blocker for fat gain is its most powerful quality in that way. When you use it with growth hormone, it helps to make you bigger, but when you use it solo, it's mostly used as a fat gain blocker. So yeah, just give it a little bit more time. You just started the metformin 5 days ago, you said, so you're right in the middle of it right now, the adjustment period. And you just need to wait about another 5 days. Things are going to get better for you, and you're going to be happy with the results. You're going to be happy with the fat loss. Okay, next question is from John. Does the death of Bostin Loyd change your philosophy that steroids won't kill you acutely? I know Bostin was kind of an outlier because his dosages were so absurd, and still he juiced for about 15 years, so it was still a cumulative effect, but he definitely showed that if your abuse is severe enough, death can happen pretty fucking quick. Again, something anyone with common sense would know. So I've always thought that, cumulative use of steroids and PEDs is very harmful, cumulative abuse over long periods of time, and that a bodybuilder's career is not an indefinite thing. A bodybuilder's career is it's like a pro athlete, okay? You can do it for about 8 to 15 years, and if you do it for longer than that, you're likely going to be seriously hurt. It's the same thing with pro athletes. There's sometimes outliers, guys. They can go, maybe 10, 20 years, instead of 8 to 15 years, and they can do it. They can be fine. But most guys, on average, need to retire somewhere between 8 to 15 years, or else they'll end up, with major injuries. And it's the same thing when you are, treating yourself like a pro athlete using performance enhancing drugs. If you're going to do more than true TRT and you're going to do that for more than 8 to 15 years, you are risking major health problems down the road, okay? And it's a large risk. It's a probability, almost a certainty, okay, that's going to happen. So, no, it doesn't, Bostin Loyd doesn't change, what I think at all. I think that it's pretty much the kind of thing that I've always thought and always said will happen is that, 15 years of extreme drug abuse, it doesn't really matter what the drug is, most drugs, if you abuse the fuck out of them for, 10 to 20 years, you're going to have major health problems. That's just the way it is. And a lot of people die, from doing that, and I'm talking recreational drugs. I'm talking, whatever, it doesn't matter what kind of drug. So I'm including steroids with that too. If you seriously abuse drugs and you do that for 1 or 2 decades, chances are you're going to get fucked up. So that would be something that happened there. Very unfortunate, at 29 years old. Oh man, that is way too young to die, man. That's way too young to go. You got a lot of stuff you still got to do in your life. So, for you guys, it's a wake up call, for a lot of guys, these kind of things that it's not like, oh, these things never happen or they're outliers. Again, like I've had problems, other guys have had problems, people die. You hear about bodybuilders dying all the time. you have to be seriously careful. And you, like I said before, you have to be militant about what you're doing. So as far as stuff like, we were talking about cardio earlier, and people are like, fuck cardio, I don't want to do cardio. Well, fucking get off steroids, dude. like you, pick your poison. Steroids are not a shortcut. And these people that act like, oh, steroids is so glamorous. Steroids is a pain in the ass. Steroids is pretty freaking, it makes it's a huge commitment to your life. So it's definitely not like this glamorous thing where, oh, now you're ahead of everyone and you're this big tough guy and you look better than everyone because you know the secrets and you can party just as hard as them and you're not going to get hurt. You're not hurting your health. Pfft, yeah, right. Man, people are not realistic about this stuff, Put it out of your head. A lot of people on social media are trying to be like, oh, yeah. You can take your steroids and eat your cake too. And you can live this party lifestyle and be like me and get all this pussy. Okay, the most thing that you get on steroids, as far as like attention is from dudes, okay? You get a lot more attention from dudes than girls, okay? There's not very many girls who really give a fuck about your muscle mass. They care about you being lean, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so when you're getting all big, you're going to get a lot of attention from guys. If that's what you're looking for, then you're going to get like everything you want, like the bigger you get. But yeah, anyways, just do this shit for yourself and, save the ego. No one gives a fuck about your muscles. I'm serious, dude. When it comes to bodybuilding, it's you. Like, do it for you. If you want to be big, you want to be strong, you want to do bodybuilding, you want to like get the best body, do it for you. But if you're doing it like with goals of like, oh, I'm doing this, so that I'm going to get this much pussy, or I'm doing it this, so these people this many people are going to admire me, or people are going to think I'm so cool, or people are going to think, I'm so big and bad. I got news for you. Nobody gives a fuck. And like, at the gym, like, when you're thinking like, oh, I'm so big, I look like this animal, I look like this fucking monster. Like, people might look at you for like, a few seconds and be like, what the fuck? Like looking at your body and being like that is insane or something like that. But other than that, they don't care. They after that 2 seconds or whatever, when you see them looking and it strokes your ego or whatever, that they only cared just to give it a glance. But in the grand scheme of their life, they don't give a fuck. They're not that impressed. It's just like something that they notice. So yeah, doing steroids and doing bodybuilding and thinking like, oh, like this is going to make me like this, everyone's going to like me and everyone, I'm going to get so much pussy and those reasons suck, dude. Those reasons suck. And they're not real either. So it's going to be really disappointing. All right, last question of the day. Timothy asks, hello, man. Hope you're good. Great episode today. Great episode. One question. Since Metformin is impossible to get in Sweden, I don't want to touch insulin. Is Berberine any good? And how should you use it? Impossible to get any info in Sweden since steroids is more taboo than heroin in Sweden. Thanks for your great work. Yeah. So, the main use of Berberine is, you could call it a glucose disposal agent or an insulin sensitizing agent. It increases your sensitivity to insulin, which is one of the mechanisms of action in metformin, but it doesn't increase GLUT4 receptors on cells or muscle carbohydrate uptake. And I'm not sure if it has the specificity either for muscle cells versus fat cells and insulin increase that metformin does. So, yeah, anyways, Berberine is an inferior version of metformin that people, supplement people have talked up because they can't sell prescription drugs metformin, but they can sell Berberine. So they leave out stuff and tell you, oh, Berberine has been shown to be as effective in studies and then you're like, for what? For what? And they just say, as metformin. Okay, that's for lowering blood glucose levels, okay? So that's for diabetes specifically, that it's been shown to be about equally as effective, okay? But not for the effects of what you're looking for in bodybuilding. So the supplement, these scammers, they leave that out. They leave out bits of important information. So Berberine is metformin light, and metformin is insulin light. Okay, so you're talking on that kind of a spectrum. If I was gonna be trying to, is it an effective weight loss supplement? Berberine, absolutely. That's something that you could use for weight loss. That's something that you could use to help you be more sensitive to insulin and to limit some of the glucose absorption that you get. But is it going to have the effects that metformin has? Is it going to be as powerful as metformin, like you've been told? No, it's not.
Hope you enjoyed the new episode of the podcast. For the 1-hour phone consultations, if you want to get on the phone with me, we can discuss any bodybuilding questions you have, training, diet, steroids, help planning your cycles, troubleshooting side effects, help with deciding on dosages and length of cycles, how to do PCT, reviewing and interpreting blood work, and very importantly, how to identify and mitigate your risk factors for health problems down the road that might result from doing what's necessary to do bodybuilding successfully. The phone calls with me are totally judgment-free. If I've talked negatively about any substances or practices in the podcast, you don't have to withhold your use of those or be worried about telling me about your use of them on a phone call. My sole goal is to help you do what you're doing the best way possible. This is focused on you and what you want, not me. So you can feel completely free to be able to open up and tell me exactly what your concerns are and be 100% comfortable doing that. I will, to the top of my abilities, work with your specific individual situation to help you to have the best information to protect yourself while you do what you feel is necessary to do bodybuilding, no matter what level you're at, beginner to advanced. And the price of the phone call is $59 for the hour consultation. If you'd like to do that, hit me up, steroidspodcast@gmail.com, steroidspodcast@gmail.com.